Anyway, welcome back to episode 7 of the Empty Space in Between podcast. So when we say electric cars, initially what we're talking about are the cars that run with like onboard batteries. In the UK, by 2030, they want to stop the sale of all new petrol and diesel cars.
The batteries have an element in called Cobalt, and Cobalt is mainly mined at the moment, all those other repositories around the planet, in the Congo. And these mines have underpaid workers, they're under-regulated, there's children down these mines.
Over the lifespan of a car, if everyone went electricity today, we would have less emissions over the 10-15 years. Yeah. I think that's the main disadvantage of electric cars.
They're so ugly.
They're just ugly. People go rock, paper, scissors. It's rock, paper, scissors on that. But then people go rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And that stresses me out.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome back to episode 7 of the Empty Space in Between podcast. You may have caught our conversation there on counting down from 3.
Yeah, just go back to that. We're talking about counting down from 3. I was saying, Ryan the other week went right on 3, 3, 2, 1. And I went, well, that wasn't on 3. You started at 3. But I remember, lads, we were looking for a bassist in our band. And I count to 4 because I'm in a band. And I go like 1, 2, 3,
Are you in a band? I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm in a band. But lads, we knew this kid wasn't for us because he turned up and we went like, go ahead, like count us in, and he went 1, 2, 3. Like, that's not a 4/4 beat, lads. 1, 2, 3. You're like 1, 2. You meant to go 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, and he went 1, 2, 3, and we went like the 4th, lad. Like your fucking time shaking a chin at you,
yeah.
Lad.
Before hang on a minute,
like, yeah, you can't play music, lad. That's
you know where the door is, lad.
Anyway, Belly, how are you?
I was going to say, it's me. I've been good. So when was the last time we recorded? It was with our guest episode.
Yeah, last guest was Dr. Ian Malabar, our good mate.
I was about to say, what we'll do is we'll do 2 reactions now, because we're recording this before we've put it out. So we'll do 2 reactions based on how it's gone to the first one. Like, we'll do now as if it went good. I can't believe the reaction to Ian Malabar. It was like, people loved it.
Yeah, like that. People were saying he is the sexiest doctor ever.
Amazing. So thank you, everyone.
I think he's got a porn deal already.
Danny D's got in touch.
Big Dr. Malabar. So well done, Ian. Okay, let's do the opposite one.
Right, so then now if it went bad. Fucking never having a guest on again. Fucking stupid, man.
Apparently Dr. Malabar's in jail.
Yeah, they've arrested him.
He's been done, lad.
For his comments, they've nicked him.
Yeah, he's been done. He's in Nick. He's in Wally Nick now, doing a 20 stint on the feet.
Right, so whichever one of them applies, just listen to that bit instead.
Yeah, if the pod goes bad, we'll be posting that.
I was trying to say, so since then, I was out in town on Saturday.
Oh yeah, I legged Ryan.
I was one of the twirls, man.
Oh yeah, Ryan went on a night out. Was it a night out or a day out?
It's just a day. It was Dare, obviously, who does. Actually, you know what? Before we get going, you know what's gonna come first.
Go on.
Thanks to Ship and Mighty for letting us film upstairs.
Oh, yeah. We've just started fucking. What's the word? Just not mentioning fucking.
Honestly,
ship now.
I was thinking.
Start, man.
I was thinking that when we did it with when we had Ian on. We just kept talking, and then it just clicked to me about half an hour in. I was like, "Yeah, we're not shoehorning this."
I think the original deal was we could record it as long as we give them a shout out, and now shout outs have slowly stopped happening. So we are sorry.
There's only Ian's. I tried to get it in, and then on our biggest clip on YouTube, they got a shout out there. So yeah, to the one that's got like 400 odd views.
There you go. What are you moaning for? Shit.
I know. Yeah. Well, technically they've not moaned. I don't think they watch.
I don't think they're moaning. We're just making it up.
I know, yeah. So I was out in town on Saturday. I was one of the twirls. So I was out with me. So there's me, missus, and then a couple of girls who we worked with over in Warrington. So we were all out, and that was fun. That was a good day. That, to be fair, lad.
And you went out with the twirls, or the fellas dropped out, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah, well, it was supposed to be about 12 of us from the office who went out.
So how did that many people? Because it didn't 4 years go out to 5 years.
Yeah, so basically, they started panic a month and a half ago, and the typical thing happens: everyone's dead game, and then after the whole month, everyone is just not game.
Everyone found out you were going, lad, and started dropping out. No. You did ask me to go, to be fair, and I did leg you. I'm sorry about that.
No, yeah. So yeah, you were supposed to be coming.
It got to Saturday afternoon. Ryan had asked me and my missus to want to go, him and his missus, and it got to like 2 o'clock. My girlfriend had just got out of bed, like, I knew they were already out and, like, dressed and that, and I thought by the time we get out, it's going to be, like, fucking 4 bells.
Especially Demi.
Then my niece turned up, and I was just said to Ryan, my niece turned up, I'm going to leave this one.
Your missus, honestly, of all the people I've known to get ready
oh,
for a night
lads.
out, it's honestly, it could be in the Guinness World Book of Records.
Lads, we've had full arguments, lads, because we're going for a meal. My missus, yeah, I will say, oh, we'll go there, like, we'll go for a meal, I'll pick you up at 7:30. Lads,
Yeah.
you'll pull up at Ken, lads, at 7:30, you will still be in the car waiting at 8:30, lads. Well, lads, and you start fuming. I've been outside the house beeping before, like,
Just
it
like,
just sends you crazy, lads, and then
send
you're
you
ringing,
up
and
the
like,
wall.
come on! Like, we're
Yeah,
late.
we said 7:30.
There's no, like, but if family are a bit like this, like, there's no, like, worry.
Rush.
There's no worry.
Yeah.
Like, they're not worried, oh, the meal's at 8:30, well, if we turn up at 9, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no worry. And it's just like, yeah, we turn up when we turn
panic
up.
me if I'm late.
Oh, lads,
I've got to be on
letting
time,
someone
mate.
down, lads.
Yeah.
And she's just like, it doesn't matter, we'll get there when we get there. It's just like, I can't deal with that.
So,
Like,
yeah.
I've got to, when we go away, and then, lads, I regiment the day, we're doing
Yeah,
this for an hour.
I'm one of
Then
them,
we're
mate,
doing
gotta
this,
be here,
1
gotta be here,
o'clock, we'll
gotta
have
be
a
here.
scran, 3 o'clock, we'll go and see this, 4 o'clock, dinner. And she's like, stop planning the day out, you weirdo. Like,
It's like, I've
I
got to
hate
be
just
there.
waking up and being with the wind, man, and being like, where are we going?
I've got to be there like 10 minutes early, mate.
I'm not 10 minutes early, guy. I'm like,
No, I've got to be there a bit early. That's because my dad's like that. He's like, right, come on.
when we meet up to do this podcast, you're always sitting outside the pub in the chicken mice at like 10 to 1, aren't you?
You roll up late.
And I pull up like 3 minutes past 1 consistently, 4 minutes past 1. Yeah, I'm always like 5 minutes late. My bird's consistently an hour late. You're consistently about 10 minutes early.
Because that's the way you should be.
Nah,
but yeah,
fuck being
so
early.
going back to the night out, so we were out, yeah, and then one of the girls we were out with, her sister works for United. So, as we said in an earlier podcast, I'm a United fan. She went to one of them unis, you know, the footy unis at the Etihad. So she went there.
Who's this, your bird's?
No, so my bird's mate's sister. So one of the
Your
girls
bird's
we were out
mate's
with.
sister's cousin's quite sound,
So
yeah.
so we were out anyway. So she this one time she got us this free merch.
Yeah.
So when we were on the night out, I was just being dead cheeky. So I was like, oh, text her now saying, text her now, see if she can get us any free gear. And she texts back going, no, obviously not. I can get you 10% off in the Megastore. I don't want to fucking buy it. That wasn't the purpose of this text.
And who's she work for?
United.
United works for
No, she
United.
actually works for United. So she, for one of the sponsors for United, she does like all like the looking after him and that.
Belter.
So we were. So then basically it turns out she was in Krakow or somewhere
What a gaff.
in Europe,
man.
somewhere
What a
like
gaff.
that, with doing like the PR stuff for Wes Brown because he was doing a thing for United, right?
What's Wes Brown doing for United? Like,
Apparently he does loads. Like,
was he that good of a player? I can't remember.
Legend, Wes Brown.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he good? I always remember him just being like a bit part
He
next
was
to
just-
Rio
he was-
Ferdinand, and then he got legged out of the team when Vidic come.
Yeah, but he's a good player by all accounts.
But he couldn't get in the team past Vidic and
Yeah,
Rio.
but Vidic and Rio were like class.
Fair
Anyway,
enough. Go on, sorry.
so we were going on.
Where's Brown, man?
And then they were there, and then she was saying, "Oh, she's out having a drink with
Where's he?
with Wes." And I said like they were in the hotel, and I must have said let us send a voice note or something.
Yeah.
So I sent. I vaguely remember sending it because this was later in the day. I vaguely remember sending a voice note that was like, "Oh, you all right, Wes? Like, don't worry, lad. I sound like a bit of a scouser."
To her phone.
To her sister's phone.
Like hoping Wes would
Yeah,
fucking
like she's
listen.
showing. I was going, you all right, mate? Bit of a I sound like a scouser, but I'm not, I promise. I'm a United fan, always be a United fan. You're a legend, lad. Right, next thing you know, she FaceTimes the girl we're out with.
Yeah.
Like her sister FaceTimes her. And she's like, yeah. And then so Lauren, the girl who's sister,
Yeah.
she goes, Ellie wants to talk to you. So I was like, yeah. So she goes, yeah, I'll just pass it over now. Next thing you know, fucking FaceTiming Wes
You're on
Brown.
the bellis. What was Ronaldo like, Wes?
Lad, my head was kettled because I didn't know what to say. So he had like a fucking
Was
glass of wine.
Rio as good as he is?
So the first thing that came to my mind, I was like, have you got a pint there? And he went, yeah. And I went, let's fucking cheers about everything. Through FaceTime, I was like, oh, fucking hell.
So you had a call with Wes Brown,
Yeah.
man?
And then he sent me a fucking WhatsApp afterwards. I didn't ask him to.
So
He
what,
was
he is like best mates or something, no?
should we put that in the clip? Ryan is best mates with Wes Brown.
There's our next
There's
clip,
the
man.
clip. There's the clip that sells.
Lads,
man.
where was he? So you were sound, and that's good. That's decent. That if he was
Well, that's what I
sound,
mean. But
lad.
then he sent like.
He sent you his own little WhatsApp.
Then he sent a little WhatsApp video, just like saying have a good night and everything.
That's boss. That
But I was saying,
That's
I was
so
like, you know
nice.
what? Fair play to him because like You don't have to nothing for anyone.
Yeah, that's so nice, lad.
And you took the time to speak to some drunk muppet. Fucking
Yeah, lad, if I was a famous footy player and some muppet in Liverpool was belling me, I'd say get him off me,
I'd be
Bella.
like, I'm not talking to this weirdo.
Just to say something as well, and when Belly was speaking about that story, then he reckons, where's I sound like a bit of a scouser? Someone on the comments the other day said he sounds like Michael Bisping, the UFC fighter from Manchester, who's like, Michael Bisping, yeah, talks like that.
Lad,
and he was gutted, he went,
mooning.
because the kid before went, this kid here sounds like Paddy the Baddy. And I don't sound like Paddy the Baddy, but obviously we're both scouts. And then he went, you can't be talking about me. So we put in the comment back to them like, you don't mean me, do you? I'm this one in this colour jacket.
Because I was like, if you mean me on the right, I'm going to lord it over you forever.
Yeah,
because I'm not a scout. And he went, no, obviously not. You went, you sound like Michael Bisping. I was like, fucking hell.
That's just like some serious UFC fan who goes around videos telling people what UFC fighter they sound like.
That's content that would get views.
But it's mad though, the way like, within Liverpool, like as a scouser, I know I don't sound like Paddy the Baddy.
Oh yeah,
like with different tones of voice, lads.
If say if you're from America, you'll just go.
But that's what I mean. But to someone who's not from Liverpool, like we just all sound in one cluster, man. Of
as one sound as one
clustering
clan.
algorithm. No, yeah, we all sound as one, man.
But yeah, that's
keeping it back to the science.
That's
you know, you've got to keep it a research pod, Belly. Can't go off on one, lads. We've got an audience to tend to here.
We can't go. That's all we do. But yeah, so in terms of what I've been up to, I think that's pretty much it. So,
well, I've got one more thing. Say I've been up to.
To be fair, I tell a lie. Actually, I've been up to something else. I now technically have a comorbidity.
I thought you already had one.
Well, I'm obese.
I thought you already.
Yeah, but that's not a comorbidity.
So I didn't even mean that one.
Which one?
I can't say public in case you don't want people to know.
What is it?
I'm not telling you, man.
Yeah, but just point.
Just point. Didn't you say you had a heart problem?
Oh no, I thought I did. That's all sound.
Oh, so that's not what you've got?
No, so I had an ECG and they went, oh, that looks a bit sussy. So then I had an echo and they went, oh no, that looks alright. Then I had a chest x-ray and they went, no, everything's sound.
Okay, so then what's wrong? Are you happy to
asthma.
say? You've got asthma, yeah?
Yeah. Sad times, man.
So you are well,
I am a coma. You'll have to tell me in your clusters what I'm going to get next.
we're doing that's one of the pods we're doing soon, man. As soon as I've got a paper out, we're doing one on multimorbidity. I think I did it in the first pod. But yeah, so you are definitely.
Well, I have now a comorbid.
There's controversy if being overweight constitutes as
obese surely has to count as this is really not what we're talking about for the rest of the episode.
No,
but
sorry, well,
we've got into it. But surely obesity has to count as a comorbidity.
It does in my eyes, lad, but some people don't count it.
I know, but like because
you can get rid of it.
I know, but like. A lot of people probably don't get rid of obesity when they get it.
No, I know. It's a very psychological. I'm not saying you're fucking. Obviously, there's people who are really, really seriously overweight, but
no, but
But you could be officially multi-morbid.
Yeah, I could have something else.
But Belly's in the gym a lot now, so he's soon to be comorbid.
But
how about you? How you go about getting rid of the asthma? I don't know. So
no, that's there for life now. Your life, baby.
So you've actually got asthma?
Yeah, I was at the doctor's today, so I had to do a little fucking breathing thing into a fucking machine.
Yeah.
And it was like, it gives you the number. Then she could tell. She was like, oh, you're basically on the borderline. She was like, you're kind of on the borderline, but she was like, with your family history and the fact I get hay fever and that apparently that's a giveaway. She was
so
like,
you're an inhaler now then, yeah?
No, he's picking up tomorrow. So
Mar's got an inhaler, she's got asthma.
So technically between now and tomorrow I could have a big
prescribed inhaler, like
yeah, like one of the brown ones.
Every day you're on it then, no?
2 times a day, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, it's for life, not for Christmas.
Yeah, man, it's not for Christmas at all.
Imagine that, opening your box of
an inhaler. No, well, lads, I done my blood. Went to me. We're getting onto the pod in like 2 minutes. We went to me girlfriend's the other week, lads, and her dad's got high blood pressure.
Oh, my blood pressure's sound as well, so I'm sorry.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, lads.
So like, apparently there's nothing up with me apart from I'm fat and I can't breathe.
Well, lads, I've got high blood pressure.
Have you? Yeah.
Well, lads, I went to me bird's stars. He lives with me girlfriend's mother as well. It's not just his house. But he has a blood pressure thing because he has high blood pressure. He takes medication, and it was lying on the couch, and I was like, I'm gonna do mine. You know, I've been in the gym since January. I'm feeling good here. You know, my blood pressure will be through the floor, not through the roof. Lads, and it said normal, high. I was like, okay, I'm normal, but I'm high. But the scale was for all ages. And I thought, am I high though for someone who's 26? So I typed in online, like blood pressure for 20-year-old, a male in the 20s.
Yeah.
I was high for a male in the 20s.
But
I'd had 5 cups of coffee that day. And I'd recently had my last cup half an hour before, and then went on Google, the best medical resource out there. I went on Google, and it said coffee can severely affect blood pressure, caffeinated drinks.
So you've not given yourself a fair shake of the whip there, have you?
So I need to do it, like, of a morning with no caffeine.
But that's what I mean. I went this morning before I'd had out, like, I'd had a glass of, I'd had a water because I've been in the gym.
And they say, like, salt as well, lads, sends your blood pressure through the roof. If you've had a big, heavy, like, I don't know, Big Mac
big Chinese or something.
Lads, if you had a Chinese, you'd say you were dying.
But yeah, so according to everything else, I'm alright, but yeah.
The one last thing I've done, lads.
Yeah, so what have you been up to?
I've not been up to much, except for purchasing exotic animals.
So's Pablo Escobar.
Lads.
Fucking hippo in your back garden.
Lads, I'm a big lover of exotic animals. Ryan knows I have a reptile collection. I've done it since I was a kid, man. I've always kept reptiles. And I got my first tortoise on the weekend.
Saw the pictures.
I got a Herman's tortoise, man. It's a little Greek species off from the Mediterranean, but it's located a lot in Greece and on the Greek Isles. And he is, I think safe to say, my best friend. Like, he is the best person I've ever met in my life.
Don't insult your other reptiles.
Lads, he is the coolest guy I've ever met. Lads, he chills, gets under his basking bowl, man, eats his dinner, I give him a bath every day. He's just like the cutest thing ever, man. I'm so in love with him. And his name's Thundercat.
You're so eccentric, you know.
Lads, he is the coolest guy ever. I can't wait to grow old with him,
Fucking
lads.
Thundercat.
Lads, I'm obsessed with him.
How old do tortoises live?
The Herman species got anywhere between 60 and 100 years.
I was just, as that left my mouth, I was like, they live for fucking ages. He's gonna outlive you.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm 26 now. In 60 years, I'll be 86. God willing, I might still be alive. Quick maths. Maths degree. And hopefully at 86, I'll be watching the most recent series of Benidorm with my little tortoise.
Of all the fucking TV shows?
Yeah,
Benidorm? Have you been rewatching the old ones or something?
No, I just like Benidorm, lads.
Well, like,
I haven't watched them recently, but they are funny.
Yeah, no, they are funny, lad.
But it's one of those series that never stops, so I feel like series 110 will be out then, lads. Benidorm will just be one big flat.
One big flat with just Sticky Vicky pulling stuff out.
No beach anymore, lad. Just one block of flats.
It turns into a horror film where Sticky Vicky chases you pulling knives out.
Oh, jeez. Anyway.
How did we get there?
How did we go from... Where did we even... Anyway.
So we said hello, then we talked about Wes Brown, then we talked about Sticky Vicky chasing you through the halls of Benidorm.
And reptiles was in there.
Yeah, at some point.
Anyway.
Right, so what the point of the...
That was possibly the best intro I've ever done.
Oh, 100%.
Maybe a bit of editing required, but...
We'll get there. So today's episode
Serious now.
Well, probably for about 5 minutes. So what we actually wanted to talk about today is kind of electric cars, and so I've always had an interest in electric cars, and I've always thought about like the environmental implications, because everyone touts them as like the future and these new things, and I've always you read stuff here and there. So what I wanted to do, because this was like an idea put forward by me, is basically I wanted justification to just spend 5 hours researching about electric cars. They didn't feel like a waste, just to try and see if the stuff I've heard was true, and like what are the actual true sort of numbers behind electric cars and the batteries in them and the environmental impacts. And
is all what's said accurate, and is it the great saviour of transport?
Yeah,
that it's made out to be. Is it the great messiah of transport, man?
I wanted to just use it as a so it's been really interesting. So I went into a huge kind of research hole yesterday and today, just like digging in, finding websites. So it's been a fruitful endeavour.
Yeah, I went down one as well, but yeah.
Insightful.
But before we started this
use your fucking words.
No, I was going to say I went down a big rabbit hole, but as I said before the pod, which I'm not going to get into today, I went down a deep rabbit hole in the end and got angry. and then just like turned it off, man. Just like collected.
Yeah, you're just like, I've gone too far.
Yeah, I went too far in a rabbit hole, man, and I got angry, and I was like, fuck electric cars, man. Fuck this world, man. Moved on. But
It's so angry.
lad, I was angry, you know. But lad, let's talk about electric cars.
Anyway, so in terms of like the first kind of, so when we say electric cars, initially what we're talking about are the cars that most people will be familiar when they say electric cars, but just for the definition to set them out at the start. So cars that run with like onboard batteries, that because they seem to be the most. I'm very far away. The most prevalent kind of electric car being sold on the market. So we wanted to focus our initial research anyway into those, as that seems to be what everyone's pushing as.
That means hybrids as well?
No,
you don't mean hybrids.
No,
they're their own little box.
Yeah, because they still produce emission at the tailpipe.
Okay.
So you've got electric cars, basically batteries. So that's what we mean by when we talk about electric cars. So going into that then, the first kind of point was, the first thing I wanted to look into was like the regulations that are now being put forward for electric cars. So obviously the government see this type of technology as the future. So I wanted to kind of confirm what kind of deadlines they put in, because obviously we've got this, especially in the UK, we've got this goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2050.
Yeah.
So the idea is, so I've been reading up about that. So in the UK, by 2030, they want to stop the sale of all new petrol and diesel cars, but then they want to obviously keep. You can still sell your second-hand cars, so they're not saying you can't drive them or not. You can still sell them second-hand.
So you can still drive your petty.
Yeah, and you can still sell it second-hand.
Okay.
You just can't buy a new one. Like a new one won't be built.
By 2030, there's no new petty diesel.
And then by 2035, this is why I made the distinction with hybrids. Hybrids are also going, so you can't buy a new hybrid from 2035 either.
Lad, that's so shit for the hybrid people, man. Those cars have been and went in like 10 years, lads.
Yeah, they've not had a very
lads.
long
lads. What's that car that everyone was driving, lad? The
lad, you see, they're all Ubers.
Yeah, they're like they're like the most common.
Toyota Prius.
Yeah, lad, those Priuses, lads.
Prius, yeah.
They've cashed in on them, and then by 2035, they're just gone.
Yeah, you can't buy a new one of them.
So what, like 2035, there's no new petty cars, no new diesel, no new hybrid, all electric sales.
That's the idea.
From all dealerships. But you can still sell second-hand petrol, diesel, hybrid cars.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's obviously still then going to be petrol pumps producing petrol. And
still selling petrol and stuff, yeah. But then obviously it'll become more expensive as it becomes
less required.
Yeah, that type of stuff.
Not there, yeah.
Yeah.
Supply and demand. And then obviously over time,
the
older then petrol cars become the less.
Because so the reason the 2030 and 2035 deadlines are there is because the average cycle of a petrol car or a diesel car, for ease of use, if I say petrol car, I also mean a diesel car in this. Because I'm not
people
saying
in the comments, I've got a 2.4 diesel.
As I'm not fucking saying both of them all the time.
It's emission free.
What, diesels aren't emission free?
No, I'm just saying someone in the comments.
Oh, I know, yeah. That. But so you've got that. So that, yeah, I've picked up my train. I thought I'd lost it again for the second time.
Back on the Polar Express, man.
It takes on average about 15 years. A car has about a 15-year lifespan before people sell it or scrap it and then buy a new one. So by putting the deadlines of 2030 and 2035, then that's basically, if you get a new car in 2030, you'd be looking for another car. Like that car will have run its life cycle by 2050 when they want to try and get everyone carbon neutral.
So then by 2050, everyone will be
that's kind of the hope. That's kind of what they want to get
What
to.
about like classics and old petrol heads who want to have a Lamborghini?
So then that'll be
specialised. So they'll still sell petrol at an expensive price for someone who's got an old, I don't know, Mustang from the 70s and wants to drive it over a weekend. Like,
well, then the question you've got then is, like, how will that be managed?
Like, will everyone be like frowning at the person in the Porsche 911 from 2001?
They probably will be, yeah.
Like, look at this bloody dickhead over here. This arsehole with his bloody Porsche.
Maniac.
Yeah. But like, you'd be thinking, I've grew up, man, into petrol cars, and now all of a sudden the fun's gone.
It is. So it may become a track-specific thing.
You've got to take your car. I've heard that, lad. People say, like, they're thinking about, like, you'd have to take your car to a track. Screw that, lads.
But like the thing is though,
I mean, not that I'm a big petrol.
To be fair, that would only affect a very small section of people.
You're a big petrol. That's exactly like I'm not a petrol.
Like I'd love to be a petrol, I just can't afford to be.
Same.
I can't afford a nice car. Or even like
Ford, Vauxhall.
Or even like an older car that you do up and you tinker with. I can't afford it. I'd love to go racing in it, but that's enough.
What's what I'm saying for those like hobbyists, man.
Yeah.
They're gonna
So that they may be forced into
tracks.
Yeah. Because of the...
that'd be a nightmare if the closest to drive your little Ford RS was the closest track.
It's Silverstone,
2
hours away.
Like 300 mile away, lad. You'd be like, mate, these Lecky cars.
Honestly.
Lecky whips, I'm calling them, guys.
Lecky fucking whips. That's actually the name on the document of
mad,
what the name for this podcast is. Fucking Lecky whips.
Lecky whips. 2030, it's not far away at all, lad.
So the EU have something similar as well, so I only mention this because it normally what happens in the EU influences us, even though it doesn't anymore, but like we're next door. So anyway, Europe also plan to ban petrol and diesel cars by 2035. So 35 they don't have the 30, it's all by 35. However, they have a lot of exceptions on that. So they reckon smaller medium-sized enterprises, like smaller companies,
like small dealerships.
So smaller companies who make cars will be exempt from this. For example, there are also plans to keep cars that use internal combustion engines, so petrol diesel engines, if they run solely on synthetic e-fuels.
What's a synthetic e-fuel?
So they're fuels that are made by humans that basically, if you develop them in the right way,
they can be sustainable.
So they're produced kind of by taking carbon out of the atmosphere. So if they're done in a renewable way, they can be beneficial.
So basically, not fuel that's from the ground, that's from a synthetic.
But then the downside is they still produce similar levels, or they can still produce similar levels of emissions
from the pipe.
But because they're made by taking it out of the atmosphere,
it doesn't really. It might balance.
The idea is that it offsets type thing. So that's the thing with e-fuels, and then there's kind of some strength behind that. That's going to become a thing because Germany have pushed really hard for that to be a thing. So there was a news article on that recently. So
Germany are more down, like we want to go down the route of e-fuels.
But when you think about it, look at the cars, like the car companies based in Germany. You got the VW group, you got Audi, BMW, Merc. Like you've got all these.
Vauxhall's VW, isn't it? Yeah. No, sorry, Volkswagen.
Yeah.
VW.
So you've got all these like companies that they're all based out of Germany. They're a powerhouse for automotive industry.
Yeah, lads, and they don't. Yeah.
And they want to. So everyone's basically seeing it as like a win for the V12 engine, like the big engines, because you can still get them and run them on e-fuels and still be able to rip it.
And it'll still feel like petrol.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like a lot of people with the electric cars, like the popular these days, like the R versions of the Audis, the RS of the Fords, the BMWs have like the I versions. Yeah. They're all like racer boy cars. People want, like I've heard a lot of people talking about, like with electric cars, obviously they're silent.
They want the
sound and the feel and the growl of a car. They were saying you can put fake noises in, but it doesn't shake it. I mean, you could do it to do it, but
like there is another point. Electric cars are quick, but they're not fast.
What's that even meant to mean, lads?
So off the line,
they're not quick, but they're not. They're quick, but they're not fast.
So off the line, they're quick. They'll get you all.
Top speed though.
Top speed, you'll lose.
Because I've seen that like Teslas just flying off.
The top speed. If you had a Lamborghini or like a very quick car over say half a mile,
do it.
Because the top speed's not there.
Why? I don't know what that is. Is battery fucking not powerful?
Maybe. Again, I've not looked into it.
No idea. Wow.
So in terms of the power delivery, it makes sense because it's instant. There is no spinning up of anything.
Because I've seen like little Nissan Leafs, lads, like lights and that, lads, and you're next to them and they go, fuck off. And they just they're in there as the car park before you can even think about getting in there, lads.
Fucking Leafs, man. There's another fucking story. They're ugly cars.
Yeah, they are bad whips, lads.
Yeah. I think that's the main disadvantage of electric cars.
They're so ugly?
They're just ugly.
Lads, why is that?
I honestly don't know. Like, Teslas, I think is either you love them or hate them.
I can appreciate why people like the Tesla.
The shape of it,
It's a cool, but like, some of like, Have you seen like the
say-
Volkswagen i3?
I tell you what's an ugly car as well. The Ford Mustang, the EMAC, the Ford Mustang.
Lad, it's woeful.
Horrendous. I think what the reasoning is they make them as low drag as possible,
So all like the cuts and
and
angles
then they try
on them
and
are
make them look
different.
futuristic and shit.
Yeah, why? That's lad. That I've said. I was talking to my dad about this. Like, if they made the electric, why are the wheels always different, lads? It does me head in. Like the Volkswagen Golf, nice little car, and then like the E version of it has different wheels that look woeful.
Because it'll be to do with removing that coefficient, air drag coefficient.
Yeah.
So it's like the Tesla. They have covers on the wheels that make them look horrendous because it's more streamlined.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you pull them off, the wheels underneath are lovely, but you'll use more battery.
So if you want to be efficient,
If you want to be the
leave them
most
on.
efficient, you leave the covers on.
Yeah, because I've seen people taking them off and they've got alloys and that.
Yeah, yeah, they look class.
Yeah, but the car's run out of battery when it gets down the road. Yeah. Go to town to a bit of shopping and it says he's stuck in the car park.
So the next thing that came up kind of then after I've been looking into electric cars is kind of I wanted to look at the regulations because I wanted to see what is the actual timelines for people getting these electric cars. When do the government think we're all going to get these electric cars? And then the main problem which came to my head straight away was the charging of them.
Getting them all charged up if everyone
Because
has them.
everyone knows that's an issue.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? So
Totally,
the idea was, what's the infrastructure like for these electric cars? Because let's face it, not everyone owns homes, and not everyone lives in a place where you can park in front and just charge it from your plug socket.
Yeah.
But then you read...
People live in flats, people live in apartments.
So then my whole thing was, you just plug it in and charge your car. But then apparently that's not even recommended. You're supposed to have
an official charger.
An official charging point.
I was under that assumption, lad. I spoke to a guy that works for a dealership and I was like, you just charge them in the mains? And he was like, you can, but you're best using a proper 3 points.
Because they were saying...
official charger, not the official name with them.
Because they were saying, basically, if you plug it into your mains, you're running it at like the capacity of your house electrical system for a long period of time, so it can be like a problem. So that's when you have to get like the specific home chargers installed and that. So then I was like, what do you mean you've got to get a home charger installed? So then we were having a look, and then me and you
we had a look at the price, didn't we?
It's like between 800 and 1,500 quid to get one of these proper homes.
You would be wounded if you thought you were doing the planet a favour, lads. Got your little Nissan Leaf together, lads. Got on with it. Oh, look at my new car, lovely little alloys, lads. And then you try and you think you can just bang it into the kitchen socket, lads, and have it coming out the window. And then someone says, oh, you need to spend another 1,500 quid.
That's what I mean.
Lads.
Like, so you're already buying a car that is generally more expensive to purchase up front.
Yeah, no, it is. They are more expensive.
Then you're supposed to buy a home charging point.
You're about 6 or 7 grand over the petrol version of the car.
Oh man, it's crazy. So I was having a look at them. So then my idea was like, right, okay, so to charge it then, if you don't live in these places, what's the infrastructure like in the remainder of the UK?
Yeah.
So to charge them. So in the UK...
Because isn't there different types of chargers?
Yeah. So in the UK, according to a company called Zap Maps, there are 40,496 charging stations
points
at 23,900 locations across the UK.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a lot on paper, but that's nowhere.
60 million people in the UK. Like if only a quarter have a car,
that's horrendously
at
small.
one time, there's got to be at least 40,000 people trying to charge the car.
So then, of these charging stations, there's typically 3 types. So you have slow, fast, and rapid. So slow is kind of like the speed you get if you charge overnight or at home. So you wouldn't see them really in charging points. Well, you might.
So what, like full charge, like 10 hours type thing?
Yeah, 8 to 10 hours. That's what that normally comes in at. Then you've got fast. So they're the ones usually found in your car parks and leisure. You know, when you park up and like the spaces.
What's
for
the shopping
cars.
centre? There's car park. Yeah.
But they normally take 3 to 4 hours to fully charge.
Okay.
And then you've got the rapid and the ultra rapid, which you see at like petrol stations.
Services on the motorways. Yeah, I've seen them.
And they take about 30 to 60 minutes to fully charge, but your car has to be compatible with rapid and ultra rapid chargers. So not every electric car can use the ultra rapid.
Because weren't they asking, lads, about 6 months ago, or wasn't? I think it was in America, Elon Musk to make his chargers available to all of the brands of car. because there wasn't enough, and they wanted to open up like the Tesla infrastructure to like Mercedes, Audi.
So they're starting to do that, but it's still not accessible to every car. So I'll get on to it in a second. So basically, of those rapid, of those 40,400, no, 500, only 7,700 are rapid charges. So there's only a very small amount of place you can get a quick boost.
And then what proportion of that are the fast?
Yeah. So of that, I've not got that off the top of my head.
So of the 40,000, only 7,000 are rapid.
Rapid or ultra rapid.
And that is still, well, think about it, you're calling it rapid, it's still could be up to an hour.
That was like, air quotes, quick. It's still 30 minutes.
And then if you pull up to a fast charger and you're on 2 mile left, it's 4 hours.
And then there's only going to be 3 or 4 charges at a space.
There's only ever like 2 in there when you get
say
to
if you go to the services, say there's 5 or 6. What happens if 10 electric cars come in at the same time, need charging? So you've got to wait 2 hours to charge. You've got to wait for someone to charge and then leave.
Do you know who's benefiting from that though? All those little Premier Inns on the motorway, lad.
Oh,
if there's a queue, if there's a big queue of electric
go get a
cars,
coffee.
We'll have to get in a Premier Inn for the night until I can get me whip charge. Then Premier Inns, lads, are rubbing their hands together.
We'll put one of them in the car.
Those little chefs on the motorway, lad.
Oh,
no, but lads, how long does it take? Listen, like, I think going electric, it sounds great, and like, obviously no one wants to destroy this planet that we're living on, but it's all about like time. Humans hate waiting, and we've got no patience. And even if like you want to be this like, you know, messiah, like, oh, I've got all the patience in the world, I'd do it for the planet. You're on a busy day, you've got to get to work, you've got a meeting or something, and you pull up at a petrol station or a charging station, and it's all the charges are full, and you're thinking, so these are charging all full charge, I've spoke to them all, and it's all an hour. So I'm going to take an hour to wait and then an hour to get me full charge.
And then people will come
2
back,
hours late.
People will come back with a retort, well, you'll just charge it overnight. There will be a night, I promise you, where either you forget to switch on the plug or your charging point breaks. So then, like, you can't charge it at home. That will happen.
But
because it just
I get at the moment, you're saying that though as well, Belly. You're saying like, oh, charge overnight. As you say, there's the circumstances when you forget. Or you go on long journeys, lads. You can charge overnight, but if you're travelling 600 mile, if you're going from London to Scotland, you're going to need to stop somewhere and charge up and have a rest. But it's a very privileged position to say, like, oh, do it from home. People might not be buying these 1.5k charging points. If they've already spent 18, 20, 30 grand on a car, they might not have another 1.5k to whack a charger.
They may not even have the drive or the like on-street parking outside the home to even be able to install one anyway.
Lads, I went to Breck Road, lads, and someone was charging a Tesla from a flat window, and they had the wire hanging out the flat, lads, into the sides of the Tesla, lads. And I was thinking, imagine if a kid like ran into that, or like someone took scissors to it. Like, kids do stuff like that, lads.
Lad, kids are horrible.
Lads, so like, but he had it 3 floors up, this big black wire, lad, sticking into the side of his silver Tesla.
See, that's not feasible.
Imagine if every house had these wires, lads.
And then, like, say you're in a 10-story thing, you just throw it out the 10th floor, plug that.
You were late for work, you'd be able to swing down your charging wire, lads.
Like something off Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Imagine all the mad kids who are like playing out on the dad's charging wire out the window.
Be careful on me charger, mate. Don't hurt yourself.
6 floors up, mate.
But then this goes into the point as well where, like we were saying, like people don't want to wait and stuff. It's not even that people just want to wait. People don't want to figure stuff out. And when you look at how complicated, so I was looking this up, right? And even I don't still fully get it, of like charging your car. So there are 5 different types of fucking cables that your electric car can come with. And then depending on the type of cable you have, depends on connector for your car, depends on what charging point you can use. And then when you show up to a charging point, there's one of a plethora of different companies that own these charging points. And each charging point uses its own app. So then if you go to one that you've never been before, and then they may just not work.
Just fucking walk, lads.
So then what happens if you show up to a place and it's out of order, there was only one there, you've got to keep driving around. And then the best experience, as we said, is with Tesla charge points, but then they've not opened it up to all car companies. So what?
There needs to be a universal.
But then, is the UK government going to fund and have a nationalised energy
charging point?
Well, that's
definitely
like, not going to happen.
You don't go to a petrol station you don't go at the moment to get your petrol or diesel and have to look for the specific petrol knob which fits your car. They all fit every car.
But here's the point. You do. There's just 2 fucking choices. you either need the green one
or the black one. Yeah, exactly, lads. And if you are getting the green one, every single green one in the country
is exactly
fits your
the same.
car.
Yeah.
And like that, there needs to be some type of centralised, like uniform, homogenised charging.
Because I know people like
for electric cars, like where you're not turning up and going, have you got the app? How many points have I got on the app? Can I get the why?
Because if you look at the people statistically now who'd be able to afford electric cars, it's going to be people over the age of 40 who can genuinely own electric cars. Like obviously you get people getting them through companies and stuff because of tax rebates and that. But it tend to be people who are older who've got more disposable income who will buy these cars. And as we all know, the older you get, the more technical illiterate you get. And that's a general statement, obviously. It doesn't apply to everyone. So imagine going up to people now and just going, so what you need to do, you need to have 20 apps on your phone.
Yeah,
you need to carry around different adapters depending on different things, and you need to just get in your car, and that's how you do it.
My nan'd never get out the house.
I reckon my dad would just walk. He'd be like, right, they need to get to work, I'll set off Saturday.
I always think as well,
he wouldn't drive.
Obviously, we're hating a bit here on Lecky Whips. That's what I'm calling them. On Lecky Whips, but obviously we don't want to destroy the planet. Me and Ryan don't want to. We're not petrol heads. We're not trying to like advocate for keeping petrol. We're just trying to point out that like this sort of fairy tale of having everyone having an electric car tomorrow. One, not everyone can afford these cars. They're much more expensive than petrol cars. Two, the way to charge them is through the roof. You need to get a point installed in your house. The infrastructure isn't there nationally, and then also around this like global like sort of effort to get the world moving electric and transport. There's still, you can't fly electric planes, can you? You can't drive electric boats, cruise ships. And what is the actual effect if for example, the whole of the UK went electric cars compared to if we still were flying 1,000 jumbo jets a day?
Yeah,
it's burning fossil fuels. Like, will it make a massive difference?
I'm not sure on that, but then here is a positive to do with electric cars.
Yeah.
So I did some research about basically if the entirety of the UK today went electric. So everyone woke up now and your car, oh my God, I've got a plug.
I've got a plug.
So say if you woke up today.
Oh my God,
man, I got a plug. Right, say you woke up today and your car so everyone's car's flipped to EVs.
Everyone's got a Nissan Leaf. Where's me folky gone?
I'd wake up, see it, and just leave out the window.
It just put a brick through the window.
Yeah, fuck off. So I did some so the general thought process behind a lot of the statements on this is, well, we wouldn't be able to charge everyone's electric car if we got one today.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, we probably could.
Okay.
So I did some research, and everyone thinks that. The reason you see that we wouldn't be able to do it is everyone says, like, if everyone got it, they'd need to charge this much, and then it would probably, we'd need like 20 times more electricity than what we're already producing.
Yeah.
Which is, it's impossible, right? But then when you actually look at the probabilities, right, what's the probability everyone plugs the car in at the same time?
Yeah, it's low. Yeah.
Not everyone's going to need to charge the car every day. Not everyone's going to, right? So there's that problem.
Yeah.
So when you actually work out, so I had a look on the national grid and a few other places, and everyone puts the estimate between, it would increase overnight between 10 and 20%.
Electricity use.
Yeah. So if everyone woke up tomorrow, everyone had an electric car.
Everyone had a
Nissan Leaf. Everyone had a Nissan Leaf. Everyone estimates it'd be, we'd need to be able to produce 10 to 20% more electricity.
Okay.
And when you look at it in them concepts, if what we produce now went up by 20%, we have the capability to cope with that in the national grid network.
Okay.
Which, that was quite a positive for me, because I went into that thinking
you wouldn't,
that was going to be a negative. So from that end,
it's not that much really for every, like, you think it'd be 50% or so, wouldn't
I thought it was going to be much higher.
Yeah.
But according to a few different sources, between 10 and 20%, they were the numbers.
I think as well, though, lad, like, that's obviously good news that electricity use would only go up 10 to 20%. But I think people forget as well, they get these electric cars and they get into these, like, ethical halos of, like, look how good of a person I am. And they forget that the electricity that they're using, I think you've got a stat there, like 40% of the UK's electricity isn't actually provided by renewable energies.
Yes.
It's isn't like 40% fossil fuel produced. So you're going to electric point, getting your electricity for your Nissan Leaf, and it could be electricity that was produced by burning fossil fuels.
Yeah. So about in the UK, it was something like around 40% was produced. Yeah. So around 40% was produced by fossil fuels, and then about the same was renewables, and then the other 20% was essentially
hamsters running on wheels.
Oh yeah,
just a factory of hamsters.
That's the government conspiracy. We'll start it. The ESI conspiracy.
The new Pizzagate. That lad is hamster wheel, man.
Is nuclear.
Nuclear.
So nuclear doesn't count as renewable. So it depends on what side of the camp you fall on there, whether we actually do renewable energy or not.
And renewables would wind, solar,
water. Biofuels. But then you've got the bio stuff where basically what they do is they burn fucking wood, like compressed bits of wood, but then loads of the compressed wood comes from like fucking forests in Canada. So it's like...
But I suppose the point
really being sustainable?
Is 40% of the electricity that's going into these electric cars
is still
from burning and a damaging practice which ruins the environment. And obviously, then the tail fuel coming out of the cars isn't now...
Yeah, so at the tailpipe it's zero.
Yeah,
so over the lifespan of a car, if everyone went electricity today, we would have less emissions over the 10, 15 years.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But then you've got... So there's 2 points here. One, globally, that's a different story. So at least over 80% of energy globally is still produced using fossil fuels. So if you go to a country like China and have an electric car, your car's going to be charged through mostly fossil fuels.
Yeah.
So there's that problem where, yes, in the UK it's a different outlook, maybe the EU, similar sort of story, but globally there's a different story. But then you've got the question of, so as we were saying, if everyone goes electric over the life cycle, it's less emissions. But then there's the question, well, should I get an electric car? And should I replace the car I've got, for example, with an electric car? So then everyone, and then this is another one there where I had the conception that, oh, well, obviously, you'd keep the car you've got, it's more efficient. But it depends.
The car you've got's more efficient?
Not efficient.
Money-wise?
So is it more environmentally impactful? So am I better for the environment for keeping the car I've got?
Keeping your Vauxhall or getting a Nissan Leaf, yeah.
So the idea is, so I've done some research about this, and then basically the answer is, yeah, it depends.
So why? I don't get that. Why would it depend?
So if you have a car that was made in like the last 10 years,
yeah,
they were built with better systems in them for dealing with CO2 emissions from the tailpipe. If you drive between 10 and 15,000 miles a year, so nothing excessive.
Yeah.
And if your car's reasonably sized, so you don't have a 6.4 litre...
You got a Fiesta, a petrol Fiesta.
Like a 1 litre petrol Fiesta. Yeah. It's probably better at the minute
than getting an electric car.
Yeah.
And is that because is that because of the emissions required to build it? Or
because generally in terms of things, it's like it's better to keep an old thing than to build a new thing.
Yeah.
So, but say if you've got a 6.4 litre car from the 80s, you're probably doing a lot.
go and get a Tesla.
You're probably doing a lot of damage, my friend. Yeah. But so the idea is so as we kind of briefly mentioned before, over the lifespan of an electric car, you put out more emissions than having a petrol car. But the process of building one is much more... It puts more emissions out than building a...
Do you have any idea why that is?
But the batteries.
The production of the batteries.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So the production of the batteries is the single most environmentally impactful thing in an electric car because they're horrendous.
Okay.
So building one causes a lot of damage to the environment. But then over the lifetime, you will do more damage in a petrol car.
So in the near future, if you've got like a 2018 Fiesta, you might be best keeping that for another
possibly
5 years, 6
and then,
years.
Because then eventually what you'd hope is like advancements in recycling and manufacturing efficiencies and production. It's going to become more efficient. So then the idea is if you keep your car, there doesn't have to be another one built. And because your car meets these standards. You don't really drive it much. It's a small engine. It's got relatively decent. It was designed relatively decently for carbon emissions. You're probably better off keeping the car you've got.
Is the research into
for like between the next 3 and 5 years? That's kind of what I've seen when I've been looking up.
Is there any evidence of like? Obviously, we were talking about the national grid is 40% powered by fossil fuels. Was it 40 renewables, 20 nuclear? I mean, there's reputable scientists out there who don't think in any time in the next 50, 60 years we're going to get to 100% production in renewables. Is the room for nuclear to power it in a safe way? But we're not experts, but like I wonder if there's been...
But then you've got the problem is no one in the UK knows how to build them anymore. Because we built them, then we let the scientists we didn't train anyone else. So if we're going to build nuclear now, we either need the Chinese, the Japanese, or the French. We're not going to get the Americans in to do it. They don't really have nuclear. So we're either going to get the French in, because the French are really good with nuclear. We're going to get the Japanese or the Chinese. Now, the Chinese, we nearly had... Well, we're not going to get the French because we don't like the French.
Ryan obviously doesn't like croissants.
Is that casually racist? Anyway, the Britain and France, generically...
me and France have beef anyway, like, because I call...
Me and France have beef?
Lads, we have beef, lads, because I call...
That's a cracking
those coats without no sleeves is gillets, man.
The gilets?
They're not, the fucking gillets,
I'll
man.
have this argument with you, it's a fucking gilet.
But lads, I found it, people say like fish fillet.
Fillet of fish.
I say fillet, man,
Yeah,
fish fillet.
Anyway, so... French.
Fuck those words, man.
So the UK and the French, anyway, there's arguments there. Well, apart from when we're building detainee sites for refugees in France.
Then they want to know us.
Then they want to know us.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's all that. So we basically had a contract with China at one point. This was a few years ago.
Yeah.
To build our nuclear plants for us. But that fell through because of, we don't even let the Chinese app TikTok on government phones anymore. We're not going to let them build our nuclear power stations.
Yeah, if we say the wrong thing, one's just going to go nuts.
So basically, it's going to be very hard for us to build nuclear. Again, I think anyway.
Because we just don't have the expertise in this country.
So you look at it, it's like, when was the last time we actually built... my suspicion is a very long time ago.
Yeah.
We actually opened a new nuclear power station. So you've got that whole rigmarole. I mean, we're definitely not exploiting renewables as much as we should do.
As much as we should do.
As much as we could do.
We should be doing more exploitation.
No, as much as we could do, because we could export wind a lot more than we currently do. But the problem is they take years to build. So it would take years and years and years to build up the demand. But our government, for whatever they're worth, they have an aim in mind to get us down to like 80% renewables in the coming years. So even though then it's 20%, the problem is it's better to be better than perfect. I think.
That's why.
I think that's kind of the aim of the world's going for.
I think that's the only approach you can take, Ryan. I think controversial take now. Not like Greta Thunberg. Like, listen, I think she's an amazing young person who's doing a lot for the planet. But it's almost as if she wants everything today, and like environment, like the whole climate clan, like they want. That's what I'm calling them. I want a better environment. I want a better climate. But it's like we can't just stop everything this minute.
The problem is
the world would collapse. Like the infrastructure the way we live would collapse.
There's two different conversations. This is going off this is going on to the world scale of.
But I agree. Your comments on getting electric cars better and better, that's the way to do it, man. I mean, we can't... I know it's a race against time, but unfortunately we can't reverse time.
No, but then my point...
So we have to just do it.
The bigger point is so Western countries probably could go renewables faster than they are doing. The real problem we've got, it's
competition.
Are countries that are now going through like industrial revolutions, right? Like going through and now India, Africa.
Yeah.
Because Africa is now becoming Africa is becoming China's China.
Yeah.
So how we, like, the Western society use China to build all our shit.
They're using Africa.
Yeah. And you can see that because there's a lot of Chinese infrastructure projects in Africa and stuff.
Loads of Chinese are funding projects.
Yeah, because now China's getting a middle class, so people are getting well paid. And anyway, there's that whole thing. So you've got basically these countries now. So you see it at like the G20 and stuff. These countries are going, well, for us to scale up properly, the entire world wants this demand, right, for things we've got. And the only way we can do it is we've got to expand. And the only way you can expand quickly, as we've shown, right, cheaply, the most efficient way to expand, right, is to burn dead dinosaurs. Right?
Yeah.
And now we're telling them they can't do that. So then, rightfully, these countries are turning around and going, pay us then.
Yeah, we don't have the...
If you want us to do things in a more expensive way as a country and become greener, while we're going through a stage of industrial development and how we're going to fit into the wider world and build up our country and our economies, right? So we're not allowed to do it in the way that everyone else has done it. It's just we're late to the party.
No, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you.
It becomes then this whole thing of, on a global scale, in terms of, you know, seeing better, like, so we're kind of on that topic of better, not best.
Yeah.
That's the solution we need to solve. So if we really want to be better, yeah, it looks good putting out pamphlets where we're like, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2050. But if we want to be a global effort, it's got to be a global effort.
And that you've hit the nail on the head, lad, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Is the old reason why electric cars, and we've took a very like UK approach discussion here, and because we're from the UK, but
seems sensible.
Yeah, it seems sensible, but global warming isn't happening in the British Isles and nowhere else. It's not a problem.
World affair,
it's not localised to a country, a population, a culture. It's everyone will feel the effects of global warming over the next 100 years. Obviously, more sooner than later, island countries and countries with lower altitudes are going to feel it, you know, more heavily sooner rather than later. But like that was getting at you were saying there, better. Doing better is better than doing nothing. And, you know, doing better isn't perfect, but doing perfect isn't sustainable tomorrow. And,
no.
But my point is the whole global effort to, you know, stop this 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in global temperatures. If America, UK, the whole of the Western world all move to, for example, electric cars, and the rest of forget every other way of burning fossil fuels, we're just focusing on electric vehicle use and the total sort of emissions they produce. And because of what you said, because the other countries haven't got the infrastructures for these electric vehicles, the money, you know, a means of getting them into their population, they are all still using petrol, diesel, old. And if you go to a place like India, no one's driving a 2018 Fiesta. They're all in older cars, which burn a lot worse. And, and as you say, they've got every right to say, well, we're not getting any help to do this. You've had your revolution 100 years ago. You've had your middle class come to it 100 years ago. Yeah. We're doing it now. You screw the planet. You know what I mean? Like, we want to be a rich country. In the grand scheme of things, then, if there's still more countries using old, banged up cars, it's a very privileged thing in the UK to say we're all going electric, how good we are. But if everyone else still can't do it,
it's a very...
does it have any effect, really? That's tangible.
That's my point. So it's like we need to do the best we can locally. So we reach a local minimum in the UK, but a global minimum can only be, in my view, can only be achieved through a global concerted effort.
Yeah.
Look at us setting the world to rights here in this little upstairs room.
In the pub, man.
In an old pub in the middle of Liverpool.
It goes back as well. We were talking about this before the pod, like the ethical goalposts of electric cars, whatever you're talking about in life. We're obviously down the electric cars, which will stick with that. But we were looking down about how the batteries are produced. The batteries have an element in called Cobalt. And Cobalt is mainly mined at the moment, all those other repositories around the planet, in the Congo. And these mines have underpaid workers, they're underregulated, there's children down these mines, there's a documentarian, and I'll put his name in the bio of the podcast, who's done a documentary on it in the Congo, the production of cobalt for batteries, for stuff like electric cars, phones. So if the whole world moves to electric cars, how much of this mineral do we need? And then how much more exploitation happens because we need this mineral? And we're all sitting in these electric cars thinking, look how great we are, the emissions are coming down. But there's a lot of suffering going on in places like the Congo where this mineral's found.
So I've done some kind of research on the battery debate.
Yeah.
And research on that. Because as we said, batteries are the most impactful to the environment.
Yeah.
Mining cobalt is horrendous. So I did some deep diving because I wanted to really look at what goes on in these batteries, because it's all well and good. I've sat there going, look, batteries are bad. Making
sell double A's, do the job.
Making batteries are bad, right? These electric car batteries, but like what's really going on. So another point we were saying about the cost, even just at the start of this sort of conversation, is that electric car batteries are only expected to last between 10 years or 100,000 miles. Right?
And that's it, they're done.
And then basically
The mileage is so reduced,
you can try to extend them. People think reasonably you can get more out of them, if you look after them, like charge them when it's cold but let's face it, half the people around here don't even service the car. So, like, our kids had a fizzer for 4 years, never had a service. It's fucked. But anyway, so like people have a car because they just want to get in and drive it. So, let's say we stay with this 10-year figure, 100,000 miles. Right? Say you buy.
My kid's had a Fiesta, and hasn't had it. Your kid needs a peddler then, lads. Get him out of that.
Had he got his MOT on
Klarna? On Klarna. Lads, he never.
He went Halfords and got it on Klarna, paid it over 3 months.
Your kid needs a scooter or something like. Get him on one of those scooters called, lads, M-Mops or something. What they're called.
So basically, let's assume that 100,000.
Sorry.
That's funny, that lad. Okay. I'll just take his car off him.
You need to
just there's your scooter.
Go Alfords and get a fucking Apollo, lad. That's what you need. You don't deserve a car, lad, if you're not treating it well, man.
Honestly, lad, it's
I hate them cars you get in, they're just a dump, man, and you're like, you don't deserve a car, man. Get a peddler.
You've just described
just
this
walk.
car.
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
So say if we take the 100,000 miles thing as
gospel.
Yeah. Say you buy a 7-year-old electric car.
Yeah.
Or 10 grand, whatever it is.
Yeah, man.
Then you average, so the average is kind of like 10,000.
The 30k miles left.
So in 3 years, you've spent 10 grand on a car. In 3 years, you'll then be approaching a point you need to replace the batteries, at which the cost is between £4,500 and £8,500.
Shut up. That's how much an electric car battery costs.
I've done some reading. Basically, the values on the very cheap end, you can get them for like 3k on the cheaper cars, but the average sits between 4,500 and 8k.
8k.
So imagine you spend 10k on a car, and then
8k.
In 3 years, someone goes, right, you need to drop 6k.
You'd just be scrapping it, wouldn't you? Like, there's no way.
Well, then this is the whole entire point. So then in these batteries, there are 5 kind of main things that need to be mined so that they can that they use to build them. So, and that's assuming we're talking about lithium-ion batteries, which everyone believes is going to be the most popular for electric cars, especially over the next 10 years, and assuming no other crazy developments come up. So in these, you have graphite, lithium, obviously, manganese, nickel, and as we were saying, cobalt.
Okay.
So as we were saying, 69% of the cobalt mined comes from Congo. The Democratic Republic of Congo. There's 2 Congos.
69, yeah, there is.
69%. So not only do you have to say these crazy human rights abuses of people mining in these things, right? It's mined in the Congo, and then most batteries, especially at the minute, are made in China. So you have the environmental impact of shipping cobalt.
It's nuts. It's
from the Congo to China, and then from China to Germany, where they'll build the car, and then shipping the car from Germany to the UK.
Probably on a boat. It's run by No, and that's what I mean by like weighing it all out, 1, ethically, and 2, emission-wise. But we also found a stat, well, I didn't find a stat, it's a true stat. 40% of the mines in the Congo, so 69% of the cobalt comes from the Congo. This cobalt is vital to these batteries getting produced in these electric cars, ending up on our roads to help the environment. 40% of the mines are completely unregulated, meaning there is no regulate. Like, not there might be payment, they might not. There might be slave labour, they might not. There might be kids there, they might not. Yeah. There might be all sorts of crime, rape, everything going on. This is a heavily deprived country, and the government of the Congo don't let anyone in to form any regulation in there because they want the monopoly on the cobalt, which it's their mineral. You know what I mean? Like, we can't. So it wouldn't be ethical either to go in and go, because we're trying to make the planet better, we're taking all this cobalt.
Just America sending over some missiles full of freedom.
Yeah, we're going to regulate the mine. Yeah, missiles. That's it, lads. We'll send you freedom on missiles, and we'll create these regulated mines, and everyone will get paid. But in the meantime, we're going to take the profits of the cobalt.
Yeah.
And it's just like the ethical goalposts just get moved constantly.
So
you're just chasing your tail to make a better world.
So there is a lot of research going in at the minute to try and make
different batteries.
Basically reduce the amount of cobalt in batteries and cobalt-free batteries. So that's an area of like research and development. So on that vein, they reckon we'll probably need 5 times the amount of cobalt we have at the minute by 2050 and 60 times the amount of lithium.
So we need to find more mines, basically.
Yeah, or basically become more efficient with the gold. But then you've got the other side. So eventually you've got the recycling aspect of... So then once your batteries are done...
I'm going to say, like, what happens to it all?
So when your batteries are done, there are 3 kind of things that are happened. They're either just stored, which that I think has to quickly become not an option.
It's dangerous storing a battery.
It's not even so much... Well, yeah, you've got danger, you've got to store them in proper conditions, but also it's just a waste. So then there's 2 things that can happen. They're either repurposed and used for another... So when they become not fit for purpose for a car, in terms of delivering that power in a quick and way, they repurpose it. So some examples of that is Nissan Leaf batteries now used to power the Ajax Johan Cruyff Arena in Amsterdam.
The old Nissan Leaf batteries.
Yeah. So when they've been pulled
so how do they
out,
get the use out of them if they're dead for the car? How are they still useful?
So because they're still probably about 65%, 70% health.
So they're fine, yeah.
So they're good for energy storage and energy release.
Yeah, makes sense. That was especially a soft question.
So like for slow energy release.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah. Sorry, bad question.
And then like Toyota are installing XEV batteries in stores in Japan to
store. Amazing that we can still use them
to store solar power. And put them out. Yeah, because that was a great thing that I didn't realise. Like, I thought when they were dead, they were dead.
What about the materials once they're fully dead? So, what can you do with the materials?
So then you have things such as recycling. So the idea...
Good old blue bin gear.
So the problems are, the cost of recycling is very high at the minute, so a lot of places don't do it. And a common number, this was on a BBC article from a guy... Oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he says about at the minute only 5% of lithium-ion batteries are actually recycled globally.
That's woeful, man.
Bad. But you have companies like VW. They have just opened up a recycling plant that aims to be able to get 90% of the raw materials back from the battery.
The battery, that's good.
But then it can only do 3,600 batteries a year.
So that's woeful.
It's
about enough cars to give to Walton, Liverpool.
It's in its pilot stage at the minute.
So they're going to obviously...
It's not good enough for the minute.
You're outlining here some of the the parameters that cause problems when trying to sort these batteries once they're done.
Now recycle all of its electric car batteries, although that only amounts to a couple hundred a year. And then the problem you've got is recycling these batteries is dead dangerous. They can just explode.
Yeah.
So then you've got the other point again, where if it's done in countries with proper human rights standards and work standards, and then we eventually get to the point where robots will do it for us. But then say if they're all recycled in, say, places like China, where, no one really gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be a lot of workplace incidents. Then it brings that whole thing round, is it ethical? So what the European...
Sorry, you said explodes. I'm sure I seen an article of Teslas exploding.
Oh yeah, Tesla batteries catching fire and stuff. I've seen that before.
With people fully dying. Like,
I've not
on
seen
the motorway, lad, and like the cars are going up in flames.
Fucking hell.
But batteries, they are dangerous, aren't they?
No, they are.
Completely interrupted.
Like when you actually think about what's actually happening in a battery, it's a dangerous thing, and if you pull them apart in the wrong way, you're going to cause a lot of damage to yourself or somebody else.
Sure.
So, but the idea is that we want to make them more sustainable. So the EU, again, they've put another regulation in, kind of circling back to what we were talking about at the start, about they're going to put regulations on batteries to make them more sustainable and more ethical. So, address like where the materials come from, and then making sure they're all coming from ethically sourced places and all those fun things everyone likes to put on paper.
Yeah, I think in general it's just like, listen, electric cars are the future, but they're not the tomorrow.
Yes.
And the reason why they're not the tomorrow is because there's no infrastructure. They're still heavily priced. There's problems with batteries, renewing them. Yeah. There's ethical problems with how the minerals for those batteries are sourced. There's no sort of worldwide agreement on how do we do it ethically. And we cannot just say, okay, by this year, moving to 2035, and how we go about getting these cars to be, we just close our eyes. And if it helps the planet, that's how you end up with populations who become lost in society because other things take precedence. You know what I mean? Like electric cars take precedence over the well-being of people in China, in the Congo. Electric cars are more important than thinking about can people afford electric cars in like the poorest area.
That's the point.
Is anyone compensating someone on 12 grand a year to get a new Nissan Leaf?
So this is when,
because they can't no longer drive their old.
If we look more locally, sort of at the UK, that's where I think we're going to stumble on the 2030 thing, because let's face it, right? In the UK, so they want people to buy new cars. Yeah. 4 times more used cars are sold per year than new cars. No one buys a new car, and I can guarantee I will not be. So my car, when I bought it, was 10-year-old. Yeah. I'm not going to buy a 10-year-old electric car that's not had an electricity.
If that battery replacement isn't sorted,
Well, it's just unless we get to a point where electric batteries now last longer. I'm not going to buy a 10-year-old electric car.
So you'd have to buy a 1, 2 or 3-year-old or brand new.
Yeah, and then at that point, I'm not going to do it because I don't have the money.
Yeah. Sorry, Plods are just
you're probably
arresting someone outside.
It's always a fun day around here.
Probably crashed his electric car into someone.
But then that's my point. It's like, so at what point? Because then I've got a second-hand car.
Yeah.
That might make it to 15 years. I'm then going to buy another second-hand car. Yeah. Because I'm not going to go out and drop 30 grand on another one. Because wages haven't kept. Wow, this is a.
Going into the
like you can go. So
I know what you mean. Like how in 2030, it's very patronising to say, "Oh, by the way, you can't no longer buy electric car. You can buy second-hand petrol, though, can't you?"
Yeah.
But we were talking about that earlier. How long is it before that's really looked down upon? And it's like 2038. You're only earning 20 grand a year. You can't go and buy a brand new fucking Tesla for 40k. And then, you need to buy a 10-year-old Fizzer. And then there's like this societal pressure, like why are you buying petrol cars?
And then you've got this, and then you've got like a more deeper, like, I was going to say psychological. It's not psychological. What's the other one that begins with B? Philosophical.
Psychological.
You've got this other like kind of like philosophical thought experiment where you go, right, okay, then so. Say if the second-hand car market only thrives in poorer areas, right? That then furthers this societal gap we have where rich people are now live in cleaner environments.
And ethically correct, apparently. They're the messiahs of society.
It's going to again increase. That's just come to me then.
Look at these scoundrels ruining the planet down here, and look at us with our brand new Teslas. We're saving the planet.
There's this whole. I think it is the future.
But it's not the tomorrow. What a saying!
Write it down, lad. Get it on your phone.
I am a politician, you know.
Imagine if I had said future, that, but it's not tomorrow.
Imagine if I had said that to like a stand of thousands of people and just went, "It is the future, but it's not the tomorrow." Like, lads, I come out with lines where you're just like, "What a line!"
So as we were saying earlier,
what a line.
So we've been talking about electric cars that have batteries. They are not the only ones. So there are other technologies, such as hydrogen fuel cells, which we've not talked about, where they just take hydrogen in and output water. Yeah. That's kind of how they work. And we've talked about synthetic fuels. But then they kind of have the same problems electric cars do. Like synthetic fuels, they still output emissions. Yeah. We just take them in. Hydrogen fuel cells, there's no infrastructure. Yeah. So it seems like we're on this track for it being battery cars. So when I've looked into it, hydrogen fuel cells with the right infrastructure could be up there. But it seems like we're going down this road of battery. Yeah. And that will. So from my research, it's kind of quashed. It's strengthened a few of the things I had thought about electric cars, such as refueling them, charging them up's a nightmare and the infrastructure's not there. But it's also changed my mind on a few things, such as there's not enough electricity and how battery.
There's some good news about how some of these batteries are dealt with. Like you got companies like Vauxhall, Volkswagen, not Vauxhall.
Vauxhall.
Keep saying Vauxhall.
It's because I drive them. Yeah. So you've got like all this infrastructure and research being put into how we actually recycle these batteries. And so I think it's been a useful exercise, this podcast.
I've learned a lot, man. I before when Ryan wanted to do this topic, I probably, as you've found out through this podcast, I'm not a big car head. I will drive whatever, you know what I mean? Like I've not like deeply thought about my own car. Ryan is more into cars. He's a big Formula 1 fan. He's more into this type of stuff. But yeah, it's something fresh, man. This is sort of outside of the realm of academia a little bit, but sort of big thinking podcast, really. More of a big a big think.
Just a bit of an opinion thought one.
Is this a new series, the Big Think series, where we think about big like stuff related to technology and research, but not quite academia. We call it the Big Think series.
So we label him a Big Think.
The big think set.
You know what? That wasn't even pre-discussed, and I like it.
The big thing.
So this is a Big Think episode.
Yeah, like big worldwide problems where like the link to technology research, but we're not maybe experts, but maybe one of us is interested. Like I don't know, global food production and how we can optimize it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that's a big think topic.
But yeah, so it's been a really good learning experience for me, a good research opportunity. For me to have a little nosy round.
Ryan's supervisors now listening to this. Like, I had no bloody paper in the lab.
I have not wasted my PhD time.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking down. I have not wasted any time at all. No, but it's been useful for me. I hope the people listening have also found it useful, because I think a lot of people interested in electric cars will have had some of the same questions I've had. So I hope we've kind of gone through and discussed a lot of them.
What you said before was boss advice. Maybe you could be better in regards to emissions to get an electric car. Maybe you're better holding off. It's all very individual. And my little slogan would be, go and get a Nissan Leaf, but just know that they don't run on air.
And on that, let us know your thoughts on electric cars.
Yeah, man.
In the comments. Again, we want to kind of build a picture of every topic we do, not just electric cars. We want to see what the consensus is on what we've been talking about. Any feedback, again, let us know. Whether it's just you hate Sam's hair or you think I sound like Michael Bisping, let me know.
I'm never doing this pod again after that.
All the social links are in the usual places, on the in the descriptions, in the bios. Make sure you give us a follow. Make sure you subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on YouTube as well, and you're just listening for the audio, let's say you're listening now.
And on Spotify, do you mean?
No, so say if you're listening on YouTube and you've got us minimised on your thing, you just listen to the audio. Try listening to us on Spotify. It really helps us out. We want to try and push some people over to Spotify and listen to us there.
Maybe a song would do that.
Maybe.
Let
us know if you like Led Zeppelin Rock and Roll in the last one.
Yeah, and if people want to hear songs, we'll start doing them every
pod. Let us know if you've got any feedback. We really appreciate it. In terms of the next episode, we've not actually planned it yet. We've got the part 2 of the Agony Ant coming up very soon. And we also have a second guest lined up. We'll probably be recording that in the next month or so.
We'll tease it closer to the day.
It closer to the time, but we have got that, so we are starting to get some more guests in. Some really interesting stuff that they work on as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that because it'll be a good listen.
I think that's it, Belly.
Right, so thank you from us, and we'll see you next week. We'll see you in the next one.
Peace out, man.